A lot of people assume that in order to speak like a high value woman, you need to keep adding more vocabulary, more sentence structures, more eloquence. But it truly is the opposite because it is all a process of elimination. When you pay particularly close attention to a high value woman and see how she carries herself in a conversation, it really doesn't matter if she's introverted or extroverted, she is still able to communicate clearly and boldly. You may not necessarily remember what they say, but you can feel their certainty and quiet confidence within themselves. Hi, my name is Jasmine, and on this channel, we talk all about becoming the woman of your dreams and building a life that you absolutely love. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 6 simple micro habits to speak like a high value woman, and specifically what you need to start decluttering in your daily conversations and the way that you speak. When you declutter these micro habits that I'm about to share with you, you will find that opportunities will just come to you because you are becoming a more attractive force and becoming a high value woman that everyone wants to be around. These are incredibly small shifts that a lot of people aren't even aware. But by simply eliminating these micro habits, you will truly transform the way that you speak. I've also included chapters for this video so you can skip around. You can also find the timestamps in the description below. And if you are somebody who's ready to do the real work, I'm not just talking about watching these videos, but actually transforming. I provide worksheets for every single one of my videos. In these worksheets, I provide in-depth journaling prompts as well as practical exercises to help you start removing your limiting beliefs and to write out an action plan so you can start living out as your highest self today. You can access these worksheets down in the description below. Now let's dive into the video. The very first micro habit to eliminate is superfluous speech. I want you to think back in high school when you had to write essays. You're right under that word count, so you add in a bunch of fluff words just to meet the word count. But that is not what we want to do here. In this scenario, we want to say things in the most condensed way possible. Every word that you speak, you need to treat it as a rare resource. If you are constantly word vomiting and constantly speaking, constantly dominating the conversation, those words that you speak are going to be less valuable over time because people are eventually going to tune you out. I know you may feel that if you do not fill the void with random talk, then people are going to think you're boring or interesting. But what this truly communicates is people can sense that anxiety. And when people sense that anxiety, they also feel more uncomfortable. Silence is actually a sign of confidence because as a high value woman, we want to maintain mystery and elegance, but we cannot portray that sense of elegance if we are constantly talking. Pausing frequently can allow you to experience calmness and groundedness, and people who are talking to you can feel that energy and they feel safe speaking to you. Listening matters so much, and people love being heard. People crave feeling seen and understood more than being entertained. People may not necessarily remember exactly what you say, but people will always remember how you made them feel. So let's go over some practical tools. The first tip is to replace autopilot fillers with expanding questions. Instead of saying, "Yeah, totally, that's so interesting," I want you to say, "That's really interesting. What made you make that decision?" Or "What made you decide on this?" The second thing is focusing on summarizing rather than going circles around the same point. So you can use words like "in essence" or "what I'm really trying to say is." The third thing is to just simply embrace pauses. It's okay to pause during a conversation because after you've spoken, it allows the words to land for both yourself and for the other person. It gives them an opportunity to truly hear what you have to say. The second micro habit that you need to declutter is to get rid of your filler words. These are the words like, yeah, you know, sort of. We tend to constantly go back to these words whenever we need to try to fill up space. We're not allowing ourselves to process and think. And this will most likely come up if, number one, you are speaking very fast. Because if you are speaking fast, you are trying to follow a momentum. Your brain is trying to follow the momentum, and your mouth is trying to follow that momentum. So if you are speaking at such a fast momentum, but you need to think, your mouth would automatically assume that you need to say something to continue that momentum. The second potential reason is if you are in a room and you're speaking to somebody who is quite intimidating. Naturally, because you are so nervous, your mind is so full of doubt, anxiety, fear, so that again is momentum built up in your voice. Either way, they are often so unconscious that we do not realize they're happening until someone points it out to us. It may seem really harmless or it may seem like a small problem, but as you keep saying these filler words, it can erode your authority, it can make people see you as someone who's not confident, and eventually it can lower your value. Because at the subconscious level, it really communicates that you don't really know what you're talking about. High value communication is all about clarity and clean edges. So if you need to pause and think, it is totally okay. Give yourself a moment of silence before you start your next sentence. Let's go through strategies. The very first tip is to simply slow down. A lot of filler words will end up dropping when you're at a slower pace because you give yourself the opportunity to think. Speaking fast does not help anyone, so just speak slower. The second tip is to just replace filler words with silence. It's okay to pause. It's okay to need to think about what you're going to say next. The third tip is to record yourself speaking, and I recommend everyone to start a YouTube channel because it has truly improved my own communication and allows you to reflect and to see the way that you speak in a very conscious way. The last tip is to ask your friends and family for accountability. Have a friend, a family member, or even a coach point out when you're saying these filler words. The third microhabit to declutter is apologetic or minimizing language. Minimizing language includes sorry if it's a dumb question, or I'm so dumb, or I'm sorry for asking. You may think, oh, I'm just acting with humility and humbleness. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the cost of your own confidence, that is a no-go zone. These statements are often said so unconsciously, so you want to pay particularly close attention to when you say it and how often you say it. When you make these self-deprecating comments, they do not enhance anybody else, especially yourself. While you may think you're sounding polite, it actually lowers your value and you automatically put that other person on a pedestal. The way that you speak with yourself is a reflection of your own self-respect. You cannot say that you respect yourself, but make these self-deprecating comments. The more that you repeat these words that you're just not competent, or you feel sorry for even having a question, these things can add up and it can change your self-concept. Your words are energy and it matters how you speak to yourself. If you want to be the best version of yourself, if you are someone who is working diligently and building the best possible self-concept, you need to start being aware of your words. I know you just don't want to sound arrogant or you want to sound like you respect the other person, but it doesn't come at the cost of your own confidence because ultimately it affects your vibrational state. It affects how people perceive you and your value, and it can also affect whether you're respectable at work. So let's talk about strategies. How can you fully shift out of this? Instead of saying sorry for asking all these questions, instead say thank you so much for your patience. Replace sorry with thank you. And if you are truly sorry, use it sparingly. Do not say the word sorry constantly because that will lose its meaning over time. The second strategy is to remove disclaimers. So, sorry if this sounds dumb, but instead, you can say, I have an idea worth exploring. So all in all, you do not have to inflate yourself to be confident, and you do not have to deflate yourself to make someone else feel better. Just remember, you do not need to ask for permission in order to be seen and in order to exist. The fourth microhabit to declutter is unnecessary exaggeration. These are words like, that was literally the best thing ever, or I was dying of laughter, or this always happens, or this is the most insane, the worst, the best experience of my life. While you can say it sparingly, I'm not saying to cut it out entirely, but if you are constantly exaggerating every single sentence, that will lose its impact. Social media does normalize this exaggeration because with marketing, you want to exaggerate things so people will click into your video. But in real life, in true conversations, you do not want to do this often. Exaggeration will ultimately dilute your own credibility. When everything is the best or the worst, people will stop believing you. So let's talk strategy. How can you shift your language? Replace those exaggerated words with emotion-based expressions. So for example, if you want to say, that was literally the best conversation ever, instead you can say, that was such a beautiful and refreshing conversation. Instead of saying, it was insane, you can say, It was energizing and it was unexpected. When you are expressing joy or appreciation, you can say words like, that felt so deeply aligned, that felt so meaningful, that felt so beautiful. When you're in moments of conflict, instead of saying, you always do this, you always bring this up, instead, you can say, I've noticed that sometimes you do this. I've noticed that sometimes you do that. Just remember, you don't have to dramatize everything in order to be captivating, because high value women communication is about composure. The fifth microhabit that you need to declutter is trendy or overused words. These are words like literally obsessed, or slay, or low-key, or, cap. I don't know a lot of these words that a lot of TikTokers use, so please forgive me. But if you want to speak like a high value woman, we need to stay away from those trendy words and instead shift our focus to building a more timeless communication style. So if you want to sound more mature, or you want to come off as someone who is taken seriously, you need to cut those trendy words out. Let's talk strategies, specifically how to shift your language. The very first tip is to be intentional with your words. Instead of constantly repeating or saying the same viral word, find a way to truly express yourself with genuine vocabulary. I just want to give some examples here, but here are some ways to replace those trendy slang words that you've been using to something more elegant and composed. So the very first example is, it's giving. Instead, you can say, it looks elevated, or it looks so luxurious. Instead of literally obsessed, you can say, I love how that turned out. Instead of saying slay, you can say, that's beautiful, or that's so pretty. Instead of saying period, you can say nothing. Just end your sentence like how you normally would. Keep in mind that trendy words may give you that temporary connection, but having that timeless vocabulary, using timeless words, is what will give you lasting respect. The sixth and last microhabit that you need to declutter is your mental declutter. Mental declutter is just your own internal narrative, constantly criticizing yourself, abandoning yourself, making yourself feel small, feeling apologetic for existing. But all of this clutter is actually creating more anxiety, more fear in your speech. Whenever you have this urge to speak really quickly, or that you need to perfect every single word you say, that's coming from a place of self-criticism. In the first 5 points, we talked a lot about how we can tackle the surface level problem, but this last tip is the most important, because if you can eliminate your mental clutter, you can speak in a more clear and succinct way. Because your actions and behaviors come from your own self-beliefs. Your beliefs come from your self-concept. So ultimately, everything is rooted into your self-concept. If your inner story and self-concept is saying you're not good enough to be seen, you can't speak this way, or you do not deserve to be heard, your behaviors will overcompensate by speaking faster or using more filler words. Ultimately, in order to be a high-value communicator and being someone who's eloquent, it is all an energetic frequency. And the more that you devote time to calm your mind, to feel grounded on a daily basis, and to not let your anxiety or frustrations get in the way, people genuinely feel safer to speak to you, and there's this level of warmth that comes out when you're more grounded as a person. So let's talk final strategies. The very first strategy is to pay particularly close attention to those unconscious behaviors that we talked about. Those moments where you say self-deprecating phrases, or using filler words, or apologizing for existing, or adding disclaimers where you don't need to add disclaimers. And then ask yourself, when do these patterns usually show up for me? Is it when I'm in a room full of very successful people? Or is it when I'm talking to my boss? Or is it when I'm talking to my families and friends? Now, the next thing is to practice mentally decluttering your old self-beliefs. So you can use EFT tapping to clear out those messages of not being good enough, to clear out that self-criticism. You can also use meditation and breath work to feel at your best and to feel calm and grounded. And meditation is not only great for communicating and becoming a clear communicator, but it also has so much to do with productivity, focus, clarity, and it will help you enhance every area of your life. And the final way to declutter your mental space when it comes to communication is to just download my worksheets down below, because I provide so many in-depth journaling prompts to help you become more aware as a communicator. Now, we've reached the end of this video. I would love to know in the comments down below who is one high-value communicator that you truly admire. And if you are on the journey of becoming the woman of your dreams and building a life that you love, check out my channel, because I make a ton of videos about mindset, self-worth, relationships, money, career, literally all things high-value woman energy. If you love this video about high-value communication, I highly recommend checking out this video over here. I go through a lot of practical tools as well as mindset tools to help you elevate your communication skills. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!